Okay, everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome to a We've Read the Documents live stream. I am your host, John Brisson. Today we're going to discuss Mike Adams from Natural News. Is he a Scientologist? Now, I have been following Mike Adams for a long time. I used to listen to InfoWars and Alex Jones. I used to go to Natural News. I know a lot about natural health. And I never really thought anything of him until he started, really going on InfoWars, especially the last couple of years, more than a couple of years, almost 4 years now, since Trump was elected. And really he went from, talking about natural health and how it can improve one's life more to being extremely political, especially during the Obama years. And it got even worse when Trump was elected. And then, of course, when he went on and Alex Jones did the reversal about the Rex 84 camps and saying instead that they were for the dissidents of a Latin American civil war that the Council for National Policy wanted for it to happen to destabilize many countries within Latin America, including Nicaragua and El Salvador, and saying that instead it was for all those illegal immigrants that flooded the border from these dictatorships to be housed and sent back to their respective countries. I played that clip of Alex Jones talking about it here many times, never mentioning anything about Oliver North's connections to the Iran-Contra affair. So it was really making me, it really made me sick. So Mike Adams, right after Alex Jones talks about it, he's the one that breaks it all down, and he's the one, that gives all this information and all this BS about how, the Rex 84 camps were a good thing. The FEMA camps were good. And really being the one of taking the lead over Alex on that point. So it makes me sick to my stomach. And so I remember watching Josh Reeves' Spellcasters Volume 1. I recommend everybody go get it. It's about the grand connections to Scientology, to Hollywood, and to the Trump administration. Excellent documentary. One of Josh's best. And we're gonna play a little bit from it. Hope Josh doesn't mind. I'll put links in the links in the show notes. So make sure you go and purchase it. You watch it if you want to learn about Scientology, connections to the Central Intelligence Agency, connections to Hollywood, and connections to the Trump administration. So he talks about Mike Adams and a journalistic hero to both me and Josh, who was Jim Marrs. Now there's about, I would say, probably a little bit more evidence that Jim Marrs is at the very least a free zoner. We'll get to more about what that is in a minute, or within the Church of Scientology, with his books being on Scientology approved reading lists, his books being found in Tom Cruise's house, him going around and promoting Battlefield Earth, but and him also winning an award by the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which is a Scientology front group. That both him and Mike Adams won, were at the same award ceremony back in 2011. Both Jim Marrs and Mike Adams, at the bare minimum, they're probably free zoners. We'll get to more about what that is in a minute. Let's see what Josh had to say in his documentary about the CCHR.
The Citizens Committee on Human Rights is a Scientology-based and funded group which specifically deals with issues related to their stance on the use of psychiatric drugs and vaccines. The fact that this group is a fully created entity by the Church of Scientology is not debated. Now, the CCHR is even prominently displayed and listed on Scientology's own website. In 2011, Jim Marrs was awarded the Human Rights Award by CCHR, and in 2009 also attended one of these award ceremonies which featured actors such as Ethan Suplee, Jenna Elfman, Danny Masterson, and others. The attendees and award winners list reads like a who's who list of Scientologist actors, with Jim Marrs just thrown in there randomly. Are we to believe he is the only lone non-Scientologist that has ever been allowed to enter their circle without being a member? I also discovered that he was given an award by Scientology as far back as 1993. As it turns out, Freedom Magazine also awarded Marrs with a Human Rights Award just 4 years after writing Crossfire and only 2 years after the release of Oliver Stone's JFK. Remember, folks, Scientology considers anyone who is not one of them to be an SP or suppressive person, and it doesn't appear that they view Mars this way. In the film JFK, Donald Sutherland portrays the mysterious Mr. X in a key scene where he reveals bombshell information to Jim Garrison. Mr. X is based upon...
Alright, I gotta skip a little bit further because I want to get dinged by, for showing clips of JFK. I don't want to get dinged by YouTube.
I start finding connections back to my previous research into the secret right and who controls the so-called truth movement. I had found some connections to Scientology while working on my secret right films, but didn't really know how it was relevant at the time. But when I saw this page on the CCHR website, I knew I had found more than I had bargained for in relation to Scientology and so-called truth tellers. Listed on CCHR's own website is a list of noted people who support their cause, and they include none other than Ron Paul, Michael Moore, George Norrie, Mike Adams, David Kuplian of WorldNet Daily, and none other than Alex Jones. Why would Jim Mars or any other so-called truthers and researchers on this list connect themselves with any group so closely involved with the CIA, mind control, and black magic as we discussed earlier in this film? Combine all of this with the fact that Dr. Thomas Azaz, who founded CCHR, was an Eastern European Jew, the same as all the founders of Hollywood, and we have some serious red flags too huge to ignore. Always felt there was a missing puzzle in my secret right research, and it appears that missing piece is Scientology.
That's true. Numerous connections to the Council for National Policy in Scientology. Go watch the rest of this documentary. I heavily recommend it, both Spellcasters and Spellcasters 1.5. There'll be links in the show notes for you to purchase it. It's definitely worth your time. So, let us begin with today's presentation. Now, normally I don't read from Wikipedia. However, this Wikipedia article is well sourced. I've checked the sources. Yeah, I mean, if it's well sourced and you check the sources are correct, then it's like any encyclopedia. The Citizens Commission on Human Rights International is a nonprofit organization established in 1969 by the Church of Scientology and psychiatrist Thomas Azaz. Huh, interesting. Josh just told us that. Headquarters in Los Angeles, California. Its state mission is to eradicate abuses committed under the guise of mental health and enact patient and consumer protections. Many critics regard it as a Scientology front group, whose purpose is to push the organization's anti-psychiatric agenda. Now, granted, I am not a fan of the overuse and abuse of psychiatric medication. That being said, I wouldn't go and, to a Scientology front group and align myself with Scientology on their war against psychiatry. Like, come on. So, the CCHR is often characterized as a front group for the Church of Scientology, which sponsors the organization. Yes, I've checked every one of these links. In 1993, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service granted CCHR tax exemption as part of an agreement with Church of Scientology International and the Religious Technology Center, under which the RTC took responsibility for the CCHR tax liability. So yes, CCHR is obviously a Scientology front group. So the same list that Josh Reeves looked at earlier, CCHR International, Psychiatric Drugs, CCHR's website. You have Ron Paul, Michael Moore. Michael Moore actually talked to the CCHR, huh? I mean, why would this well-known documentarian not do the research to find out that CCHR is a Scientology front group before he spoke with them and be like, nah, I'm good? George Snorri, one of the voices of the Council for National Policy. Mike Adams. Look at Mike Adams. Mike Adams is the key writer and editor-in-chief of the Natural News Network, which covers the topics that empowers individuals to make positive changes in their health, enhance their environmental sensitivity, and consumer choices, and encourage informed skepticism. So, not only does the CCHR promote Adams, but they also promote many of his blogs, especially when he talks about anti-psychiatry on his blog. So, Alex Emmerich Jones. Prison Planet. Huh. Prison Planet. I wonder why. David Kuplian. Ooh, WorldNet Daily. Counts for National Policy. Manager, editor of WorldNet Daily. Joseph Faria, WorldNet Daily, huh? All right. Natural News 2011 Book of the Year Award winner, The $1 Trillion Conspiracy by Jim Marrs. Oh, look, Jim Marrs looking fancy. Ooh, Mike Adams looking fancy. What's this about? CCHR Human Rights Award winners. New York Times bestseller author Jim Marrs and Mike Adams. Ooh, they both win awards for the CCHR. Well, I mean, maybe Mike Adams is a journalist. Jim Marrs is a award-winning author and investigative journalist. Maybe they should have, I don't know, looked into the CCHR before they got awards from them? I mean, look, I'm an investigative journalist, not as one as New York Times bestseller Jim Marrs, okay? But any group that wants to give me an award or any group that wants to promote my work, you better darn well sure I'm going to check into it. And if it was a CCHR that wanted to promote my work, I'd tell them to pound sand. Just me. Just me. Next, we have Health Ranger Show, episode number 49, interview with CCHR Texas Chapter President Jerry Boswell. So let's see what good old Mike Adams had to say about the CCHR.
Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Health Ranger Show. You're listening to an exclusive interview today with Jerry Boswell. He's the president and director of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights in Texas, the Texas chapter. And this is an organization that I've written about. I've talked about them before, and the important work that they're doing to protect our children and our entire population from the crazy abuses of modern psychiatry and psychiatric drugs. Now, you may think that modern psychiatry isn't that dangerous if you really haven't heard this information before, but you will be blown away by what you're going to learn on this show today. I kid you not. Be warned that some of this is very disturbing information, but it's all true. And to tell you about it, let's welcome Jerry Boswell to...
No mention of Scientology and their connections to CCHR. Why? I mean, automatically CCHR is biased just based on that fact alone. That they are a Scientology front group. No mention. Hey, we're going to have this guy on, the Citizens Commissions for Human Rights, the Texas chapter president Jerry Boswell, who is, if not a Scientologist, a free zoner, or Association of Independent Scientologists. And so, again, why no mention? Like, you would think you'd be like, hey, I'm going to have this Scientologist on, he's going to tell you about... I mean, don't you think that would make red flags in a lot of people's minds? All right?
The show today. Thanks for being on the show, Jerry.
Well, I really appreciate you having me, Mike.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, and your organization is doing such great work. Now, where...
Are they? Are they? Is Scientology doing such great work, Mike Adams? Huh? Because CCHR is a Scientology front group. And granted, yes, CCHR is battling, the misuse of psychiatric drugs or psychiatry as a whole. But, yeah, I don't think you'd want to say that to a Scientology front group. Just me.
Should we begin? Can you share with people some of the true stories of what modern psychiatry has done to children and adults?
Yeah, Mike, I've been doing this since 1991. I've been the executive director and now president of the Citizens Commission on Human Rights in Texas. And, of course, in all those years, I've run into many stories. As you know, we were the first to herald the fact that many of these psychiatric drugs can actually cause someone to become suicidal. And we sounded this alarm, back in the early 90s. And now, of course, we have the FDA black box warning, finally.
All right. There's more about the dangers of psychiatric use medicine. And, many psychiatric drugs have black box warning labels, numerous side effects associated with their use. And, in my opinion, should not be used in children under the age of 18. Their brains are still developing. In the European Union, they closely limit and monitor that, especially in the United Kingdom. All right, so next we have, interestingly enough, in Richard Belzer's book, Mike Adams, and then blogs that from the CCHR that used to mention Mike Adams. When you go to that actual blog now, there is no mention of Mike Adams. It just says psychiatric drugs and violence, the facts. But when you actually go to search Mike Adams' name, it is not on here. So, did he write this? Did they take it off? I don't know. All I can say is in Belder's book, he credited Mike Adams for this CCHR blog. Next, we have the blogs that are published by this, Natural News at the CCHR puts on here, so you can read them. Gives them a link back to it. Ooh, InfoWars. Interesting. CCHR is linking an InfoWars blog by John Galt, not even by Mike Adams. So next you have Mike Adams IMDb, the movies that Mike Adams starred in. Now, how many movies do you think Mike Adams starred in that have connections to Scientology? How many? How many you think, chat? 1, 2, 5, 3. How many, chat? How many? Anybody? Anybody want to put a number in there? How many you think? All of them? Most of them? Few of them? Well, the answer is quite a few of them. Quite a few of them. Some of them being direct Scientologists themselves that were the director of the movies. So first we have Making a Killing, the untold story of psychotronic drugging. Now that is made by the directors Toby Burwell and Randall Stith. Well, Randall Stith is a Scientologist. Alex Gabney was working on a film, and Randall Stith approached him because they're doing a documentary on him. And he found out he was a Scientologist. So what happens when a person tells you... I mean, he's the one that's like, oh my God, I didn't know this guy was a Scientologist. He wanted to do a documentary on me. Oh my God, he's a Scientologist. Steer clear, steer clear. You'd think you would get that from, I don't know, Mike Adams, Jim Mars, you know? But no, you don't get any of that at all. And here is Scientology ramps up Going Clear smear campaign, contacts Academy members. So Alex Gabney did a documentary on Scientology called Going Clear. And so it was Randall Stith who approached him. And Randall Stith is a Scientologist. So, we have one movie, Making a Killing, the untold story of psychotropic drugging. 2008, Randall Stith. Alright, what about All Jacked Up? All Jacked Up, from what I could tell, I couldn't make any connection strongly to Scientology. If someone else wants to look into it, they can. Hungry for Change. I couldn't. This seems to be more like a diet movie. I couldn't see any connections. So that's 2. 1 for, 2 against. War on Health, the FDA's Cult of Tyranny. Gary Null. Well, Gary Null is a famous author for natural health. Now, I kind of was like, nah, I seriously doubt it. But I said, hey, I need, I got to do my due diligence. I got to check and see. All right? So, uh-oh. Gary Null got a CCHR award too? And this is published by the Church of Scientology International Freedoms magazine. That's how old he won this award. Say it ain't so, Gary. No. Say it ain't so. Now, you might think, well, he just won a war. That was way back then. You couldn't really search, you know. So maybe he didn't know. Maybe he had no idea. Well, yeah. The Food, Mind, and Body Connection by Gary Nold. B. The Dangers of Prozac. Gary Nold, Ph.D., and Martin Feldman, medical doctor. In 1990, the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, CCHR, a Scientology organization that investigates psychiatric violations of human rights. Nothing bad about Scientology here. Just how good the CCHR is and their war against psychiatry. That's called being, the bare minimum, a Scientology apologizer, Gary Noll. At the bare minimum. And this book was written 2000. You knew all along. Gary Noll knew all along. And at the bare minimum, that makes you an apologizer for Scientology. Now, does that make you a free zoner or a member? I don't know. But I will say it makes you extremely suspicious. Because people knew the crimes of Scientology before 2000. Granted, not as much as they've known in the past, I don't know, 10 years? 15? There's him winning the award. So, we now have another movie, War on Health by Gary Null. His connections to Scientology 2, that's 2. GMO Ticking Time Bomb, Seeds of Death, The Hidden Enemy, Silence as Mercury Rises. GMO Ticking Time Bomb, Gary Null. Seeds and Death Invading the Lives of GMOs, Gary Null. The Hidden Enemy, Inside Psychiatric's Covert Agenda, Randall Sith did another movie with him. 2013. Even after Mike Adams won the war in 2011, still cozy with Scientology. Another movie, I looked, I couldn't see anything. Seems to be a movie about mercury, probably in vaccinations. 5G, movie that Mike Adams is doing himself, and Biosludged, a movie about... So there were many, many movies that Mike Adams was in with people who were either Scientologist apologists or free zoners or being within the Church of Scientology in and of itself. Crazed swordsman attacks Scientology guard who fires back in self-defense. By Mike Adams, November 24, 2008. Never bring a knife to a gunfight. That's a lesson learned by sword-wielding intruder who broke into Scientology Celebrity Center in Hollywood and threatened a guard. In a classic Hollywood style, the guard pulled a gun and shot the intruder dead. A surveillance tape backs up the self-defense claim, reportedly showing that the guard only fired after being physically threatened by the swordsman. Regardless of what you think about Scientology, the group has been under a series of rather bizarre attacks over the past year, including organized hacking attempts, public protests. What's wrong with the public protest? What's wrong with the public protest, Mike Adams? I can understand you could say, yeah, maybe you shouldn't directly assault Scientology members, all right? Because that's a crime. But a peaceful protest isn't. Why are you lumping in a person going into a Scientology Celebrity Center with a sword and trying to possibly harm members of Scientology, okay, to protests? Why? Why? This is 2008. He has been shilling for Scientology since 2008. I only mention this because natural news because anti-psychiatric group CCHR. Oh, hold on. An even attempt by the nation of Germany to outlaw the group. An attempt that failed, of course, when Germany realized it couldn't outlaw people based solely on their beliefs, no matter how unpopular. Scientology is not a religion, Mike Adams. It's a cult. I only mention this on natural news because the anti-psychiatric group CCHR was founded by Scientology. And CCHR has done outstanding work in trying to protect our children from out-of-control psychiatric doctors who assault children with chemicals rather than swords. What modern psychiatry does to children can only be called a chemical assault, and probably does more long-term damage to the children than being abused by someone else. See the outstanding documentary from CCHR here, and he links to. The CCHR page. In a video called Diagnostic and Statistical Manual Psychiatry's Deadliest Scam, the DSM-4. I am here in the documentary, by the way. Bam. Something I didn't even know. So he was in a specifically funded, produced CCHR documentary. Something I didn't know until I did this research. As far back as 2008. And no, I'm not a member of the Church of Scientology, but I fully support CCHR actions against psychiatry. Mike Adams, me think thou protest too much. Maybe you're not a member of the Church of Scientology, but are you a free zoner? Are you an independent Scientologist, Mike Adams? Because I'm really starting to think you are. Really starting to think you are there, bud. Now, something that exposed the enemy, John Swin. Go following him on YouTube. John Swin's doing excellent work putting out videos. Something he mentioned is something I was going to get to. Mike Adams apologizes for John Travolta. So in this article in Natural News, he apologizes about John Travolta. Speaking of religion. Church of Scientology is a real religion. Okay. 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 Mike, I thought you were a Christian. Oh, okay. I find it disgusting to watch people use this tragic death to level yet more attacks on the Church of Scientology. When Catholic priests rape the choir boys, is it all just hushed up and allowed to continue? But when Scientology suffers a random tragic accidental death, they're subject to relentless attacks that could be called hate-motivated assaults on religious freedom. Well, Mike, very interesting that you went to the extreme as a Christian and talked about a death of John Travolta's son, Jet. It's straight comparing it to Catholic, church rape scandals, which I'm not saying, look, I'm no Catholic apologist. I'm not a Catholic, all right? There are many scandals in people who claim to be Christian, whether it's in the Catholic Church, whether it's in Protestant churches, like the Southern Baptist Convention with long-term Council for National Policy member Judge Paul Pressler. All right, but that's weird that you're going to say, well, Scientology is a religion, and I feel it's weird that people are attacking Scientology over Jet's death. But isn't it kind of the same when Catholic priests rape choir boys? I mean, am I right? That's a little weird framing, Mike. For the record, I am not a Scientologist. Thou protest too much. And he's not, probably. He's probably a free zoner. We'll get to what that is in a minute. However, had the opportunity to personally meet many current and former members of the Church of Scientology, much like I know many members of the Mormon Church, many of conservative Christian churches, and of course lots of New Age spiritual people who aren't associated with any organized religion at all. Man, that's something to brag about, isn't it, Mike? Something to brag about, isn't it? The only thing I've learned in all this is that those who attack the members of another religion over their beliefs are violating their own church. I don't think it says that in the Bible, Mike. I mean, didn't Paul go after Gnosticism as a heresy? Didn't Jesus discuss the heresies of certain Gnostic churches in the book of Revelation? I don't think that's Christian. Okay, whatever. Whatever church that may be. Religious freedom in the minds of too many people only applies to your own religion, not to the other people's religions. And that's not religious freedom at all. That's just zealotry, huh? So me being against Scientology because of all the ills that it's done on the world and being a cult, I guess that makes me a zealot according to you, Mike Adams. God, you're such a shill for Scientology. And I don't... Oh my God. This is his own words, people. This ain't like I'm, taking him out of context. This is his own freaking words. I am one of the few people you ever truly, honestly, irrevocably believes in genuine religious freedom. What does that mean? It means that if I held a party at my house, you meet people there from all kinds of spiritual beliefs and backgrounds. Christians, Catholics, Scientologists. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Scientologists are going to freaking show up at your house, Mike. Pretty sure! Mormons, Buddhists, Islamists, New Age spiritualists, and even some atheists and Hindus, too. And why is that? Because I know and respect people in each of these religious traditions. And I don't condemn people for following a religious belief system. The only religion I attack is what I call the code of pharmacology, which doesn't account as organized religion in the first place. Look, I believe in freedom of religion as far as the Constitution is concerned. And look, yeah, I have friends who aren't Christian, okay? I don't have any friends that are Scientologists, though. But I don't have any friends that are Satanists. It seems like he's apologizing for Scientology and protesting that he is not one. Just too much here. Just too much. I've noticed that there are various levels of tolerance among the population for attacking various religions. Attacking Scientology, for example, is considered okay by lots of people because Scientology seems strange to them. No, it's not because it seems strange to me, Mike. It's because it's a cult. It takes advantage of a people. It fleeces them dry. It brainwashes them. Maybe some people could say it also opens them up to demonic possession. Attacking the Jewish religion, however, is considered a hate crime. Even as Israelis are now murdering innocent civilians in Gaza with military assault that targets universities and schools. Huh. Okay. You're going to compare it. Okay. If you dare say anything against Israel, you're immediately considered a blasphemous hate crime promoter. And if you lived in Germany, they could actually lock you up in prison for even questioning the official events of events like the Holocaust. Wow, Mike Adams. Why isn't the Southern Poverty Law Center going after Mike Adams about this? I mean, I hate the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's just funny. It's just so ludicrous. Oh, God. Oh, God. So ludicrous. By the way, I'm not a Holocaust denier, and I don't support David Irvin's views, but I do support the right to express his views, which is being arrested as criminal. Speaking of Holocaust deniers, virtually all Americans are Native American Holocaust deniers because a revisionist version of... Mike, you need to rewrite this, man. You need to rewrite this so bad. Oh, I'm sorry, so bad. Oh, you're such a shill apologist for Scientology. Alright, so what is the free zone? What are free zoners? This is what we are going to end with this today. The origin of the free zone. Early on, L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology, by the way, in 1947, had a premonition of what could happen with the Church of Scientology, and he himself warned. And then someday, me gone, other guys gone, all of a sudden there sits this thing, this organization, and somebody has to rise up and say, auditors of the world, unite, overthrow this monster, and everybody will see it go down very plainly. You see, down it'll go. Then they'll say, fine, now we are free. And they will get another handful of letters counseling their certificates. It's very interesting because the reason why I'm reading this is because this is from a free zoner. So at first it makes it seem like free zoning is bad, but then later there's quotes of L. Ron Hubbard saying, you know, free, make it so. All right, so he kind of like pretty much leads to free zoning is you have to like go underground to spread Scientology because you're not really connected with the Church of Scientology like it by any legal reason. You're not a Scientologist, but you preach Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard to the masses. So it's kind of like, so you can be like, I'm not a Mike Adams, I'm not a Scientologist. I'm not part of the Church of Scientology. But, you know, the CCHC does great work, and, man, Scientologists, they sure are falsely persecuted. Am I right, guys? You understand? You understand why I have questions about Mike Adams more than him, you know, shilling for the Council for National Policy with Alex Jones? Alex Jones being a member at one time of the CMP, if he still isn't now. You guys get it? Ernie Martin, a close associate of L. Ron Hubbard and someone who was responsible for the security of the Hubbard family, unequivocally claimed that L. Ron Hubbard said emphatically in the early 70s that the Church of Scientology being increasingly difficult, even impossible to live with, he should leave and start again under the name of Free Zone. Bill Robertson also stated that L. Ron Hubbard had told him the same thing. Since the beginning of the 1980s, it has effectively become impossible to work in any way whatsoever with the Church of Scientology. Yeah, because it's a cult, and people even do it back then. Bill Robertson and Ernie Martin left the church and did what L. Ron Hubbard said. So they became free zoners. Bill Robertson moved to Europe, where he lived in Germany, Switzerland, and France. And also in other countries that responded to the call at Ron's org network was established. The terms Ron org and free zone are synonymous to some extent. Ron's org is an acronym for Ron's organization, a network of standard technology. The free zone further refers to the overall movement. As such, includes many members who have withdrawn from the Church of Scientology. So, the International Free Zone Association operated as the Association of Professional Independent Scientologists. The Association of Professional Independent Scientologists is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion and practice of the original philosophy of Lafayette, Ron Hubbard. The new renaissance of beingness. So yes, free zoner, independent Scientologist, whatever you want to call them, they are people who practice Scientology, who promote Dianetics, who promote the life and works of L. Ron Hubbard, who are very much pro-Scientology. And they do it separate from the Church of Scientology, because the Church of Scientology has gotten such a bad rap of being the horrific cult that they are, among other things. And so, yeah, you could say, oh, I'm not part of the Church of Scientology, and you're not lying. You're not. But you could be a free zoner. You could be an independent Scientologist, which I will go on record right now. I am neither a Scientologist or a free zoner or an independent Scientologist. It was very easy for me to do. Why can't Mike Adams do that? Why can't Mike Adams... I'm not a Scientologist, but I'm also not a free zoner. You understand? You get it? So hopefully in this presentation, I have shown enough evidence to at least get people to start researching Mike Adams and to not trust him. Don't trust Mike Adams. He is not the person that he makes himself out to be. He is very cozy with Scientology and has no problem recommending them. At the bare minimum. My guess is that, my best guess is that Mike Adams is a free zoner. He is an independent Scientologist. You could say the bare minimum, he's a Scientologist apologist for Scientology. If that's the case, you should automatically disengage from Mike Adams. Many red flags just on that alone. My guess is that he is a free zoner or independent Scientologist based off all the information that I've just shown. And you could probably search for more. I just spent 2 or 3 hours, was able to find that amount of information linking Mike Adams to Scientology, reading his own words, being in many Scientology documentaries, promoting the CCHR promoting him. Again, and I'm going to do a stream very soon on Greg Reese. Always remember the term Prison Planet. PrisonPlanet.com. Alex Jones. Prison Planet can mean two things. One, it can mean the prison planet that Gnostics believes that we live on, or it could be reference to the prison planet that Scientologists believe we live on. In a lot of ways, there's not very much difference between Xenu and the Demiurge and us being locked on a prison planet. So again, the whole InfoWars base, and not everyone that is in InfoWars, alright? Not everyone knows about the Council for National Policy. Not everyone knows about InfoWars' connections to Scientology. Either the connections of Alex Emmerich Jones or Mike Adams. But it should start making you question what they push and why they push it. Now, again, I am no apologizer for psychiatric medication and the numerous side effects associated with the use. I believe that psychiatric medicine is used way and properly by the medical establishment. Especially, I caution its use and question its use in children with developing brains. But that does not mean that I would ally myself with a Scientology front group to get the message out. And Scientology has done just as much, if not more, damage. Alright, that's it for this morning's stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time, always read the documents. Take care, everyone.